In the vibrant bazaar of Delta Prime Spaceport, creatures from countless worlds mingled, their voices a symphony of alien languages and the air thick with the scent of unfamiliar spices. John, a towering figure, navigated the throng with ease, pausing at a vendor's stall to inspect an ancient device. The merchant, a green-skinned Tharkian, watched him with wary eyes. Top-tier quantum harmonizer, best in the quadrant, just 500 credits, the vendor proclaimed. John's lips twitched, recognizing the device for the cheap imitation it was, worth no more than 50 credits. "No thanks," he said, his deep voice tinged with amusement. As he moved away, a commotion caught his attention. A young woman with striking violet hair dashed through the crowd, her face a mask of desperation. 3 men in dark uniforms were hot on her heels, hands hovering over their holstered blasters. John's muscles tensed. He had vowed to leave his old life behind, but some instincts were hard to bury. The woman collided with a fruit stand, scattering its exotic produce. One pursuer grabbed her arm, and she screamed, struggling against his grip. In that moment, John decided to act. Moving with lightning speed, he crossed the space between them, his fist connecting with the first attacker's jaw, sending him crashing into a wall. The other 2 drew their weapons, but John was faster. He grabbed one by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. "Rethink your choices," John growled, tossing the man aside. The last attacker fired, but John dodged the energy bolt and disarmed him with a swift, crushing grip. "Last warning," John said, his voice icy. The man fled, pushing through the crowd of stunned onlookers. John turned to the woman, who looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear, her turquoise eyes wide. "Are you okay?" he asked, his tone gentler. She nodded, then fell to her knees. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling. "I need your protection. I'll be your slave if that's what it takes. Just don't let them take me." John frowned, uncomfortable with her plea. "Get up," he said gruffly. "I don't need a slave." She stood shakily, tears glistening in her eyes. "Then what can I do? I have nowhere else to go." John sighed, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. He had sought a quiet life, and now this. But something in her eyes stirred long-dormant instincts. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mara," she whispered. "All right, Mara. I'm John. You can come with me, but as my assistant, not a slave. Understand?" Relief washed over her face. "Yes, thank you. I'll do whatever you need." As they navigated the market, John's senses remained on high alert. He guided Mara with a gentle hand on her back, steering her toward the quieter residential district. "Who were those men?" he asked once they were clear of the crowds. Mara hesitated, glancing around nervously. "It's complicated. I'm not sure who I can trust." John's eyes narrowed. "If you want my help, you need to be honest with me." She bit her lip, then nodded. "You're right, but not here. Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" John led her to a small apartment he used as a safe house. Inside, Mara marveled at the sparse but secure setup. "Sit," John said, gesturing to a worn couch. He remained standing, his presence filling the room. "Now, tell me everything." Mara took a deep breath. "My real name is Mara Noran. I was the Princess of Elaris." John's eyebrows rose. He'd heard whispers of a coup on that distant world, but had paid little attention to galactic politics in recent years. "There was a rebellion," Mara continued, her voice cracking. "My family, they're all dead. I barely escaped with my life." "And the men chasing you? Assassins sent to finish the job?" She nodded, tears welling up. "I need help to reclaim my throne, for my people's sake." John paced the small room, his mind racing. This was precisely the kind of entanglement he had been avoiding. "Why me?" he asked. "You don't even know who I am." Mara's gaze was unwavering. "I saw what you did in the market. You're not just another mercenary. You're different, powerful." John's jaw clenched. She was more perceptive than he had given her credit for. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low and intense. "If I help you, it won't be easy. You'll need to train, to become stronger. Are you prepared for that?" Mara nodded eagerly. "I'll do whatever it takes." John studied her for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he made his decision. We start tomorrow. For now, get some rest. You can use the bedroom. I'll take the couch. As Mara retreated to the small bedroom, John stared out the window at the sprawling spaceport. He had spent years running from his past, building a quiet life. Now, in the span of a few hours, everything had changed. He clenched his fist, feeling the power thrumming beneath his skin. It had been so long since he had truly unleashed his abilities. The thought both exhilarated and terrified him. The next morning, John woke Mara before dawn. She emerged from the bedroom bleary-eyed and disheveled. Time to begin your training, he said, tossing her a set of plain, sturdy clothes. Get changed. We leave in 5 minutes. Mara blinked in surprise but didn't argue. When she reappeared, John led her to a secluded area on the outskirts of the spaceport. The twin suns of Delta Prime were just peeking over the horizon, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. First lesson, John said, his voice carrying the authority of a seasoned commander. Awareness. You need to be constantly alert to your surroundings. Without warning, he hurled a small stone at Mara. She yelped as it struck her arm. Hey, she protested. What was that for? If that had been a blaster bolt, you'd be dead, John said bluntly. Again. This time, try to dodge. For the next hour, he put her through a grueling series of exercises, testing her reflexes and endurance. Mara struggled but refused to give up, pushing herself to meet his demanding standards. As they took a brief water break, Mara wiped sweat from her brow. How did you become so skilled? She asked, curiosity burning in her eyes. John's expression hardened. That's not important. Focus on your own training. But, no buts, he cut her off. If you want to survive, you need to learn quickly. Your enemies won't wait for you to catch up. Mara's jaw set stubbornly. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll do whatever it takes to save my people. For a moment, John saw a flash of the royal she truly was, despite her current circumstances. There was steel beneath her delicate exterior. Good, he nodded, because it's going to get much harder from here. Over the next few days, John pushed Mara to her limits and beyond. He taught her basic combat techniques, how to use various weapons, and the importance of strategy. Through it all, Mara's determination never wavered, even as her body ached and her hands blistered. One evening, as they shared a simple meal in the safe house, Mara broached the subject that had been weighing on her mind. John, she began hesitantly, I'm grateful for everything you're doing, but why? Why are you helping me? John was silent for a long moment, staring into his bowl of synthesized protein. Finally, he met her gaze. Because sometimes, doing the right thing is more important than staying hidden, he said quietly. Mara's eyes widened. Hidden? What do you mean? John sighed, realizing he had said more than he intended. Let's just say I have my own reasons for avoiding attention. But seeing you in trouble, it reminded me of who I used to be, who I should be. And who is that? Mara pressed gently. John's expression darkened. Someone who made a difference. Someone who fought for justice, no matter the cost. Mara reached out, placing her hand on his arm. John tensed at the contact but didn't pull away. You're still that person, she said softly. I can see it in everything you do. For a brief moment, John allowed himself to feel the warmth of her touch, the sincerity in her eyes. But then he pulled back, walls slamming into place. We should rest, he said gruffly. Tomorrow, we start planning our journey to Elaris. As Mara retreated to the bedroom, John remained at the table, lost in thought. He couldn't deny the growing connection between them, but he knew the dangers of getting too close. His past was a weapon that could be used against him, and against her. The next morning, John laid out a series of star charts on the table. Elaris is here, he said, pointing to a small system near the outer rim. It's not an easy journey, especially with bounty hunters likely on your trail. Mara studied the maps, her brow furrowed in concentration. What's the plan? John's eyes gleamed with determination. We're going to assemble a team, gather resources, and hit them where they least expect it. But first, we need to find someone who can get us a ship and provide reliable intel. Mara nodded. Who? A former ally of mine. She runs a bar on the edge of the galaxy. If anyone can help, it's her. As they packed their few belongings, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had spent too long hiding from his past, from the man he used to be. Now, with Mara by his side, he had a chance to make things right, to fight for a cause worth believing in. Together, they set out into the vast expanse of space, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The path to Elaris would be fraught with danger, but John knew one thing for certain. They wouldn't be facing it alone. The journey to the outer rim was long and arduous, but John and Mara pushed forward, their determination unwavering. Their first destination was the bar run by John's old ally, a place known as the Last Horizon. It was nestled in a remote asteroid field, a haven for smugglers, mercenaries, and those who preferred to stay off the grid. The Last Horizon was a sprawling, chaotic place, filled with a mix of rough characters and alien patrons. As John and Mara entered, the dim lighting and thick haze of smoke created an atmosphere of secrecy and danger. John scanned the room, his eyes landing on the bar where a tall woman with striking silver hair was tending to a rowdy crowd. "Stay close," he murmured to Mara as they weaved through the throng of patrons. The bartender's eyes met John's, and a slow smile spread across her face. Well, if it isn't John Carter," she said, her voice a melodic blend of amusement and surprise. "Long time, no see." "Alara," John greeted, nodding. "I need a favor." Alara raised an eyebrow, wiping down the counter with a rag. "You always need a favor, John. What's it this time?" John leaned in, lowering his voice. "A ship and intel. We're heading to Elaris." Alara's expression shifted from amusement to concern. "Elaris? That's a dangerous place to be right now. And who's this?" She nodded toward Mara. "This is Mara," John said, choosing his words carefully. "She's someone who needs my help." Mara stepped forward, her eyes earnest. "Please, we're trying to reclaim my throne. My people are suffering under the new regime." Alara's eyes widened slightly. "A princess, huh? You do know how to pick them, John." She sighed, looking thoughtful. "All right, I might be able to help, but it's going to cost you." John nodded. "Name your price." "I need you to do a little job for me first," Alara said, leaning closer. "There's a rival gang that's been causing trouble, interfering with my supply lines. Take care of them, and I'll get you what you need." John's jaw tightened. He had hoped to avoid getting entangled in local disputes, but he had little choice. "Fine. Where do we find them?" Alara handed him a small data pad. "Coordinates and details are all there. Be careful. These guys are no joke." As they left the bar, Mara looked up at John, her eyes filled with concern. "Are you sure about this?" John nodded, his expression grim. "It's the only way. We take care of this, and we'll have the resources we need to get to Elaris." The coordinates led them to a derelict space station on the outskirts of the asteroid field. The station was a rusting hulk, its once shiny exterior now pitted and scarred. John and Mara approached cautiously, their weapons at the ready. Inside, the station was eerily silent. The air was stale, and flickering lights cast long shadows across the corridors. John's instincts were on high alert as they moved deeper into the heart of the station. Suddenly, a group of armed thugs emerged from the shadows, their weapons drawn. "Looks like we've got company," John muttered, his grip tightening on his blaster. Mara's eyes narrowed, and she took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm ready." The fight was brutal and intense. John's combat experience and Mara's newly honed skills were put to the test as they faced wave after wave of attackers. Despite their fierce resistance, John and Mara managed to push through, taking down the last of the thugs with a final, decisive blow. As the dust settled, John surveyed the scene, his breathing heavy. "We need to find their leader," he said. "Alara won't be satisfied until we've dealt with the root of the problem." They moved through the station, finally reaching the central control room. There, a burly figure with a scarred face and a menacing grin awaited them. "John Carter," the man sneered. "I've heard about you." John's eyes narrowed. "Then you know how this ends. Stand down, and I'll let you live." The man laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Not likely." The final showdown was fierce. The leader was a formidable opponent, but John's determination and Mara's newfound confidence proved to be a powerful combination. With a final, powerful strike, John incapacitated the leader, leaving him unconscious on the floor. "It's done," John said, his voice grim. Mara looked around, her expression a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Let's get back to Elaris." Returning to the last horizon, they found Elaris waiting for them, a satisfied smile on her face. "I heard the commotion," she said. "I take it the problem is solved?" John nodded. "It's done. Now, about that ship and intel." Elaris' smile widened. "A deal's a deal. I've got a ship ready for you, and some information that might help you on your way to Elaris. But be careful, John. This path you're on, it's dangerous." John met her gaze, his expression resolute. "I know, but it's a path I have to take." As they prepared to leave, Elaris pulled John aside. "Take care of her, John," she said softly. "She's more important than you realize." John's eyes softened. "I will." With their new ship and the necessary intel, John and Mara set course for Elaris. As the stars streaked past them, John couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation and unease. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but he was ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Mara stood beside him, her determination unwavering. Together, they were a formidable team, bound by a shared purpose and an unspoken bond. As they hurtled through space, John knew that the fight for Elaris was only just beginning. The new ship, a sleek and agile star cruiser named the Horizon's Edge, cut through the void of space with ease. John and Mara spent the initial hours after departure familiarizing themselves with the vessel's controls and systems. The ship was equipped with advanced technology, including a state-of-the-art navigation system, stealth capabilities, and a formidable array of weaponry. It was exactly what they needed for the treacherous journey to Elaris. Mara stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur into streaks of light as they entered hyperspace. "It's beautiful," she murmured. John joined her, his eyes focused on the endless expanse before them. "It is, but we can't let our guard down. Elaris is a war zone. We need to be ready for anything." Mara nodded, her expression turning serious. "I know. I've been preparing for this my whole life. My people are counting on me." John placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And you won't let them down. We'll get you to Elaris, and we'll take back your throne." The journey to Elaris took several days, each one fraught with tension and anticipation. They plotted a course through uncharted space, avoiding known patrol routes and heavily trafficked sectors. John's experience as a smuggler and Mara's knowledge of the galaxy proved invaluable as they navigated through asteroid fields, nebulas, and other celestial hazards. As they approached the Elaris system, the atmosphere aboard the Horizon's Edge grew tense. The planet loomed ahead, a beautiful blue and green orb marred by the scars of war. Elaris's once proud cities were now reduced to rubble, and the space around the planet was littered with debris from countless battles. "We're entering Elarian space," John announced, his fingers flying over the controls. "Stay sharp. We don't know what kind of resistance we'll encounter." Mara took her place at the co-pilot station, her eyes scanning the sensors. "I'm picking up multiple signals. Looks like a mix of Imperial and Rebel ships." John frowned. "We need to find a way through without attracting too much attention. Let's activate the stealth systems and proceed with caution." With the ship cloaked, they maneuvered through the debris field, weaving between the wreckage of destroyed vessels. The tension in the cockpit was palpable as they skirted the edges of enemy patrols and avoided detection. "John, look." Mara pointed to a large capital ship looming in the distance. "That's the Imperial flagship, the Revenant." John's jaw tightened. "That's our main target. If we can take out their command center, it'll create the chaos we need to make our move." They continued to approach Elaris, their path growing more perilous with each passing moment. The planet's atmosphere was thick with the signs of conflict, blazing fires, plumes of smoke, and the distant flashes of battle. "We're almost there," John said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Once we're within range, we'll need to land as quickly as possible." Mara nodded, her eyes focused and determined. "I'm ready. Let's do this." As they broke through the planet's atmosphere, they encountered fierce resistance. Anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky, and enemy fighters swarmed around them. John's piloting skills were put to the test as he dodged and weaved through the onslaught, the horizon's edge taking heavy fire. "Hang on," John shouted, his hands gripping the controls tightly. "We're coming in hot." The ship shuddered as they descended rapidly, but John's expert maneuvers brought them safely to the surface. They landed in a secluded area on the outskirts of the capital city, hidden from immediate detection. "We made it," Mara said, her voice a mix of relief and resolve. "Now what?" John activated the ship's scanners, assessing their surroundings. "We need to make contact with the rebel forces. They're our best chance of mounting a coordinated attack." They exited the ship, weapons at the ready, and made their way through the war-torn landscape. The city was a haunting sight. Once grand buildings reduced to ruins, streets littered with debris, and the distant sounds of battle echoing through the air. John led the way, his instincts honed by years of experience. They moved swiftly and silently, avoiding patrols and navigating the labyrinth of destroyed structures. Finally, they reached a hidden entrance to the rebel underground. A guard challenged them, but Mara stepped forward, her regal bearing unmistakable. "I am Princess Mara of Elaris. Take me to your leader." The guard's eyes widened in recognition and respect. "Follow me, Your Highness." They were led through a series of tunnels and into a large chamber where the rebel leadership was gathered. The atmosphere was tense, filled with a mix of hope and desperation. An older man with a commanding presence stepped forward. "Princess Mara, we've been waiting for this moment. I am General Thorn, leader of the resistance." Mara inclined her head. "General Thorn, thank you for your bravery and your loyalty. We have a plan to strike at the heart of the Imperial forces. Together, we can reclaim Elaris." John stepped forward, his eyes meeting Thorn's. "We've taken out their communications hub. Their forces are in disarray. Now is the time to strike." Thorn nodded, his expression resolute. "We're ready. We've been preparing for this day for a long time." As they laid out their plans and coordinated their efforts, a sense of purpose and unity filled the room. The fight for Elaris was about to begin in earnest, and with John and Mara leading the charge, hope flickered in the hearts of the beleaguered rebels. Mara stood at the center of the chamber, her voice ringing with determination. "For Elaris. For freedom." The assembled rebels echoed her words, their voices rising in a powerful chorus. "For Elaris." With their resolve strengthened and their path clear, John and Mara prepared for the battle ahead. The fate of Elaris hung in the balance, and together, they would face the darkness and reclaim their world.